I know, it's awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming. Some of you thank you for coming again. We're here this afternoon. So this is part of National Library Week, part of the facilities for National Library Week. We presented this this afternoon on the SSU campus in the William Wilson Gallery. And we have, most of our readers have been able to join us again this evening. So we're going to change up the lineup a little bit. Folks got places to go. Somebody's going to France apparently tomorrow. So we're going to change it up a little bit here. So our first reader of the evening is Dr. Amy Schell. She's our Dean of Arts, Letters, and Sciences.
Thank you. So thank you. And I chose the book Jerome. This was a book that my parents had joined a Book of the Month club for me when I was little. It's for the Parents Magazine Press. And so every month I would get a new book. And I swear they ended up being my favorite books. And they were not really popularly available, and no one else had ever heard of them, but I loved them. So the one I chose was Jerome. It's by Philip Resner, illustrated by Jerome Snyder. And this book actually created a fight in my family, I'll just quickly say, because I was an only child for almost 10 years, and all these books that I had received were my books, but then somehow when my twin brothers came along, they became our books. And so one Christmas I went home and took them all. And then my mother said that she had managed to find them on eBay, and so she had bought extras, and so I bought an extra for both my girls. So we have multiple copies of this one. So this is Jerome. Make sure I have this situated. And it's clearly written in 1967 because of all the wild illustrations. So one day in a pond in a summery green hollow, a big frog named Jerome was sitting catching flies when a witch came by. "Hello, old witch," Jerome said. The witch didn't like to be called a witch, and she looked at Jerome with silvery eyes and smiled a mean smile. "It's not nice to call people witches," she said. "Oh, I'm sorry," Jerome said. "I could turn you into something awful for saying that," the witch said, "but I think I'll turn you into a prince instead." "Well, I don't mind," Jerome said. "We'll see," said the witch, laughing to herself. "We'll see." And she waved her crooked black stick in the air and began to sing a strange tune without words. Soon a great wind sprang up and the pond began to bubble slowly like hot oatmeal. Then it all stopped and Jerome was still a frog. "Am I a prince now?" he asked. "Of course you are," said the witch. "But I don't feel like a prince," Jerome said. "Oh, you will," said the witch, laughing up her flappy sleeve. "You will. Now you just go into town and see what happens." So Jerome did as the witch said, and when he came to town, he said, "Hello, I'm the new prince who does princely deeds." And the townspeople laughed to themselves because they saw that he was just a frog. But they said to Jerome, "So, you're a prince who does princely deeds. How would you like to do some for us?" "At your service," Jerome said. "Good," the people said. "Now the first thing we want you to do is get rid of a terrible giant crow who eats up all our corn before we can harvest it." Then they took Jerome to a field where the corn swayed light and green and fragrant in the sun, and they left him to wait for the crow. Soon an enormous crow landed nearby and immediately began to eat the corn. "Stop!" Jerome shouted. "Stop eating the corn!" The crow looked over his shoulder, still munching, and then after a bit he swallowed and said, "I never talk with my mouth full. It's bad manners." "It's bad manners," Jerome said, "to eat corn that doesn't belong to you." "Well, I know," said the crow, "but I'm very large for my size, and it takes a lot to fill me up." "Also," said the crow, leaning down near Jerome's ear and whispering, "I'm very worried that everybody else is going to eat up all the corn before I do. How about you, for example? Wouldn't you like to get your teeth into all this nice juicy corn?" "Not me," Jerome said. "I'd rather eat flies." "Honest to goodness?" said the crow. "That's right," said Jerome, "and I promise never ever to eat any corn. How about that?" "Well, that's just fine," said the crow. "I also know some fish who will never eat corn," Jerome said, "and at least 8 beavers, a couple of dozen foxes, and a whole tribe of frogs, and I know for a fact that all lions, tigers, and whales would be happy never to eat corn." "Hooray!" shouted the crow, and then he flew off in a great flutter of wings, whistling tunes he remembered from a long time before, when he hadn't worried about everybody eating up his corn. After that, Jerome went back to the townspeople and told them that the crow wouldn't be eating all their corn anymore, but just some of it every now and then. And the townspeople said, "That's fine. Now how would you like to do another princely deed?" "At your service," Jerome said. "Good," the people said. There is a crazy dragon who breathes fire and smells terrible. We would like you to slay him because he burns up our houses and forests." "All right," Jerome said, and the people gave him a sword and took him to a dark cave in the side of a black mountain. "The dragon lives in there," they said, and they ran to hide behind some rocks further off. Jerome stood at the entrance of the cave and called in, "Dragon, come out at once. I am going to slay you." This is my favorite. After a while, the dragon poked his head out of the cave and blew just a little puff of pink flame with smoke to match. "Why?" he said. "Because," Jerome said, coughing a little from the smoke, "you've been burning people's houses and forests." "Well," the dragon said, "it's my nature." He poked Jerome with a greasy green paw. "You know what I mean?" he said. "I just can't help burning things, no matter how hard I try." Jerome nodded and thought for a while, and finally he said, "Why not burn other things?" "What else is there to burn?" the dragon asked, shaking himself impatiently and giving off a swampy smell. Jerome stepped back a little. "Well," he said, "how about burning garbage at the town garbage dump?" Garbage," the dragon said, half to himself. "Does it smell deliciously awful?" "Yes," Jerome said, "and there are piles and piles of it outside of town. Great heaps of it." "Does it burn easily?" asked the dragon. "Well, no, it takes some doing to get it started," Jerome said. "It's sort of damp." "Good," said the dragon. "I like a challenge. Lead me to it." So Jerome led the dragon to the garbage dump where the dragon puttered around poking at the garbage and peering and sniffing into things and pretending that he hadn't yet made up his mind. But he already had, and he soon settled down happily to the job of burning the town garbage, which he did every Tuesday and Thursday, resting and telling lies on the other days of the week. After Jerome had stopped the dragon from burning houses, some of the people began to say that maybe Jerome really was a prince. Maybe, they said, he really is a prince. But most of the people still laughed. He's just a frog. In spite of this, they asked Jerome to do one more princely deed. It was a cold day, and the windows chattered in their frames, and the people said to Jerome, "We want you to do something about the wicked wizard who lives in the dark wood and does terrible things. You take the path to the left where it branches." So Jerome took the path to the left and soon came to a stone tower that had no door and no windows. At the top, looking over the edge, was the wizard. He had yellow eyes and mean ears. "Who are you?" he asked in a mean voice. "I'm the prince who does princely deeds," Jerome said. The wizard said to himself, he's a frog. I can smell a frog when I see one." And then he said to Jerome, "What were you before you were a prince?" "A frog," Jerome said. "What were you before you were a wizard?" The wizard put on a large pair of green spectacles and peered down at Jerome. "Well," he said after a long time, "I guess I was a boy." "Oh," Jerome said, "why did you stop?" "Well, being a wizard seemed as if it might be fun," the wizard said, "but it's not." "That's too bad," Jerome said. "I'm sorry. Was it fun being a boy?" "Oh," said the wizard, "was it ever? Sunshine and thunderstorms, blue skies and green skies, secret codes and watermelon and horse chestnuts, telling stories under the porch, old aunts who smelled like flowers, summer mornings before the world was awake and running downhill so fast you couldn't stop. Oh, I wish I were a boy again." The wizard, somehow, had forgotten that when he wished for things, they really happened. There was a thunder of lightning, the dark wood turned pale lavender, and the wizard turned into a boy with red hair. "I," shouted the boy, "am going to run downhill so fast I can't stop." And in a moment, he was gone. When the townspeople heard that Jerome had performed his third princely deed and that the wizard was gone, they decided he must really be a prince, even one who looked like a frog. "Hooray for Jerome the prince," they shouted, and they gave him a little castle made of green stone with an even greener vine climbing on it. Jerome lived happily in it for a long time, and he particularly liked the pond in the backyard that was green and summery and full of flies.
Thank you. Our next reader is Dr. Anita Gall, Adjunct Professor of History and Humanities. Shameless plug, though all of you I think know. Anita's going second now because she's on her way to rehearsal, because she plays the teacher, the drama teacher, in Osmaid's Prom. So,
Fancy that, yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's a kind of a kooky character, imagine that. It's very goofy and fun. And we open on Thursday, so we can get a chance to go and see that'd be great. And Oak designed the poster. Oak Kelsey's here, and he designed the poster. Fantastic.
Yay.
Danita Coleman.
Right, we don't want to miss the picture.
Block 2, the red Aaron broccoli. All right. All right, my book is The Monster at the End of This Book, starring lovable furry Oak Grover. This was one of my very favorites from childhood, and in fact, it is the only book that has survived from my childhood that I still own. You can see it was a rummage sale purchase of 10 cents. It's rather ironic because I grew up on a farm here in Southwest Minnesota, and we only got our rabbit ear antennas got ABC and CBS. We did not get PBS, so I never actually watched Sesame Street, so I only vaguely knew who Grover was. But now I have watched PBS and Sesame Street, so I know who Grover is and I know what he sounds like. So I'll do my best to do my best Grover impersonation. All right, the monster at the end of this book.
This is a very dull page. What is on the next page? What did that say? On the first page. What did that say? Did that say there will be a monster at the end of this book? It did? Oh, I am so scared of monsters. Listen, I have an idea. If you do not turn any pages, we will never get to the end of this book. And that is good, because there is a monster at the end of this book. So please do not turn the page. Okay. You turn the page! Maybe you do not understand. You see, turning pages will bring us to the end of this book, and there is a monster at the end of this book. But this will stop you from turning pages. See, I am tying the pages together so you cannot. Don't turn another page! You do not know what you are doing to me. Now, stop turning pages. There. I, Grover, am nailing this page to the next one so that you will not be able to turn it, and we will not get any closer to the monster at the end of this book.
Turn it.
Okay.
All right. You do not know that every time you turn another page, you not only get us closer to the monster at the end of this book, but you make a terrible mess. This will stop you from turning pages. A heavy, thick, solid, strong brick wall. I would just like to see you try to turn this page.
Turn it. Crash.
Do you know that you are very strong? The next page is the end of this book. And there is a monster at the end of this book. Oh, I am so scared. Please do not turn this page. Please, please, please.
You're too scared, I better not do
I'm not.
it. All right, put on your brave face. Are you ready?
Well, look at that. This is the end of the book, and the only one here is me. Oh, lovable furry old Grover, and the monster at the end of this book. The end, and you were so scared. I told you and told you there was nothing to be afraid of.
No.
Oh, I am so embarrassed.
I was saying when we did this and I was putting this PowerPoint together, this is the picture that Anita sent me, and our kids have the same book too, but it has a different cover now. It's a yellow cover. So still loved after all these years, right? Our next reader is Cassie Williams, academic specialist with AOS on campus. She's brought her own plan to the audience.
The mama's a baby.
Our standards now.
Mama's a baby, that's right.
All right, I am going to read The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. One winter morning, Peter woke up and looked out the window. Snow had fallen during the night. It covered everything as far as the eye could see. After breakfast, he put on his snowsuit and ran outside. The snow was piled up very high along the street to make a path for walking. Crunch, crunch, crunch. His feet sank into the snow. He walked with his toes pointing out like this. He walked with his toes pointing in like that. Then he dragged his feet slowly to make tracks. And he found something sticking out of the snow that made a new track. It was a stick. A stick that was just right for a smack in the snow-covered tree.
Wow.
As you can see when you read it. Down fell the snow, plop, on top of Peter's head. He thought it would be fun to join the big boys in their snowball fight, but he knew he wasn't old enough. Not yet.
Still want to play.
So he made a smiling snowman, and he made angels. He pretended he was a mountain climber. He climbed up a great big tall heaping mountain of snow, and he slid all the way down. He picked up a handful of snow, and another, and still another. He packed it round and firm, put the snowball in his pocket for tomorrow. Then he went into the warm house. He told his mother all about his adventures while she took off his wet socks. And he thought and thought and thought about them. Before he got into bed, he looked in his pocket. His pocket was empty. The snowball wasn't there. He felt very sad. While he slept, he dreamed that the sun had melted all the snow away. But when he woke up, his dream was gone. The snow was still everywhere. New snow was falling. After breakfast, he called to his friend from across the hall, and they went out together into the deep, deep snow.
Our next reader is Michelle Neister, who is the Associate Director of AOS.
All right, my book is on my phone. I was not familiar with the story until I had children, and then I really liked it, and my kids liked it, so I put it on the phone. So I'll read it to you. What Was I Scared Of by Dr. Seuss. While I was walking in the night, I saw nothing scary, for I have never been afraid of anything, not very. Then I was deep within the woods when suddenly I spied them. I saw a pair of pale green pants with nobody inside them. I wasn't scared, but yet I stopped. What could those pants be there for? What could a pair of pants at night be standing in the air for? And then they moved, those empty pants. They kind of started jumping, and then my heart, I must admit, it kind of started thumping. So I got up. I got up fast as I could go, sir. I wasn't scared, but pants like that I did not care for, no, sir. After that, a week went by. Then one dark night in Greenwich, I had to do an errand then, fetch some Greenwich spinach. Well, I had fetched the spinach, and I was starting back through town when those pants raced around the corner and they almost knocked me down. I lost my Greenwich spinach, but I didn't even care. I ran for home, believe me, I had really had a scare. Now, bicycles were never made for pale green pants to ride them, especially spooky pale green pants with nobody inside them. And the next night, I was fishing for doubt trout on Ruver River when those pants came rowing towards me. Well, I started in to shiver. And by now I was so frightened that I'll tell you, but I hate to. I screamed and rode away and lost my hook and line and bait too. I ran and found a brickle bush. I hid myself away. I got brickles in my britches, but I stayed there anyway. I stayed all night, the next night too. I'd be there still, no doubt, but I had to do an errand, so the next night I went out. I had to do an errand. I had to pick a peck of snide in a dark and gloomy snide field that was almost 9 miles wide. I said, I do not fear those pants with nobody inside them. I said and said and said those words, I said them, but I lied them. Then I reached inside a snide bush, and the next thing that I knew, I felt my hand touch someone, and I'll bet that you know who.
The man.
And there I was, caught in the snide, and in that dreadful place, those spooky empty pants and I were standing face to face. I yelled for help. I screamed, I shrieked, I howled, I yowled, and I cried. Oh, save me from these pale green pants with nobody inside. But then a strange thing happened. Why, those pants began to cry. Those pants began to tremble. They were just as scared as I. I never heard such whimpering, and I began to see that I was just as strange to them as they were strange to me. I put my arm around their waist, and I sat right down beside them. I calmed them down, poor empty pants with nobody inside them. And now we meet quite often, those empty pants and I, and we never shake or tremble. We both smile, and we say, hi. The end.
Our next reader is Dr. Pat Brace, Professor of Art in the Department of Humanities and Chair of the Department of Fine Arts and Communication. This is Dr. Pat.
Okay, my book is The Pokey Little Puppy by Janet Sebring Lowry and Gustav Tenggren, and I did a little research about the book, and it is the top-selling children's picture book of all time, and was published in 1942, and there's actually a whole series of Pokey Little Puppy books, which I had no idea about. I just know this is the first book I ever got that was my own book for me, so it's a great little book. So here we go. 5 little puppies dug a hole under the fence and went for a walk in the wide, wide world. Through the meadow they went, down the road, over the bridge, across the green grass, and up the hill, one after another. And when they got to the top of the hill, they counted themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4. One little puppy wasn't there. Now where in the world is that pokey little puppy, they wondered, for he certainly wasn't on top of the hill. He wasn't going down the other side. The only thing they could see going down was a fuzzy caterpillar. He wasn't coming up this side. The only thing they could see coming up was a quick green lizard. But when they looked down at the grassy place near the bottom of the hill, there he was, running round and round, his nose to the ground. What is he doing? The 4 little puppies asked one another, and down they went to see, roly-poly, pell-mell, tumble-bumble, till they came to the green grass.
Pass by it, sorry.
Intermission. Intermission. We'll be right back.
Suspense.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be.
No, I mean, this is here. It's just not showing what's here. That's
You have it set on camera and not alt.
Well, why would it stop saying, Jimmy, no, you didn't.
I apologize. Took a picture of it.
Did the timer turn off or something?
Yes.
That's unplugged. Ooh, you're booting.
Yeah.
Or what was it?
Tap holder, you and that.
Yeah, sure.
It worked.
There we go. Yay.
All right, Commissioner. Okay, so where we left off, they were wondering what he was doing down the, okay. What is he doing? The four little puppies asked one another, and down they went to see roly-poly, pell-mell, tumble-bumble, till they came to the green grass, and there they stopped short. What in the world are you doing? They asked. I smell something, said the pokey little puppy. That's where I left off, was it?
Yeah.
Then the four little puppies began to sniff, and they smelled it too. Rice pudding, they said. And home they went, as fast as they could go, over the bridge, up the road, through the meadow, and under the fence. And there, sure enough, was dinner waiting for them, with rice pudding for dessert. But their mother was greatly displeased. So you're the little puppies who dig holes under fences, she said. No rice pudding tonight. And she made them go straight to bed. But the pokey little puppy came home after everyone was sound asleep. He ate up the rice pudding and crawled into bed, happy as a lark. The next morning, someone had filled in the hole and put up a sign. The sign said, "Don't ever dig holes under this fence." But the five little puppies dug a hole under the fence just the same and went for a walk in the wide, wide world. Through the meadow they went, down the road, over the bridge, across the green grass, and up the hill, 2 and 2. And when they got to the top of the hill, they counted themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4. And little puppy wasn't there. Now where in the world is that pokey little puppy, they wondered, for he certainly wasn't on top of the hill. He wasn't going down the other side. The only thing they could see going down was a big black spider, which we don't get a picture of for some reason. He wasn't coming up this side. The only thing they could see coming up this side was a brown hop toad. But when they looked down at the grassy place near the bottom of the hill, there was the pokey little puppy, sitting still as a stone, with his head on one side and his ears cocked up. What is he doing? The four little puppies asked one another. And down they went to see roly-poly, pell-mell, tumble-bumble, till they came to the green grass. And there they stopped short. What in the world are you doing? They asked. I hear something, said the pokey little puppy. The four little puppies listened, and they could hear it too. Chocolate custard, they cried. Someone is spooning it into our bowls. And home they went as fast as they could go, over the bridge, up the road, through the meadow, and under the fence. And there, sure enough, was dinner waiting for them, with chocolate custard for dessert. But their mother was greatly displeased. So you're the little puppies who will dig holes under fences, she said. No chocolate custard tonight. And she made them go straight to bed. But the pokey little puppy came home after everyone else was sound asleep, and he ate up the chocolate custard and crawled into bed, happy as a lark. The next morning, someone had filled the hole and put in a sign. The sign read, "Don't ever, ever dig holes under this fence." But in spite of that, the five little puppies dug a hole under the fence and went for a walk in the wide, wide world. Through the meadow they went, down the road, over the bridge, across the green grass, and up the hill, 2 and 2. And when they got to the top of the hill, they counted themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4. And one little puppy wasn't there. Now where in the world is that pokey little puppy, they wondered, for he certainly wasn't on top of the hill. He wasn't going down the other side. The only thing that they could see going down was a little green grass snake. He wasn't coming up this side. The only thing they could see coming up was a big grasshopper. But when they looked down at the grassy place near the bottom of the hill, there he was, looking hard at something on the ground in front of him. "What is he doing?" the four little puppies asked one another. And down they went to see, roly-poly, pell-mell, tumble-bubble, till they came to the green grass. And there they stopped short. "What in the world are you doing?" "I see something," said the poky little puppy. The four little puppies looked, and they could see it too. It was a ripe, red strawberry growing there in the grass. "Strawberry shortcake!" they cried. And home they went, as fast as they could go, over the bridge, up the road, through the meadow and under the fence. And there, sure enough, was dinner waiting for them, with strawberry shortcake for dessert. But their mother said, "So you're little puppies who dug that hole under the fence again. No strawberry shortcake for supper tonight." And she made them go straight to bed. But the four little puppies waited till they thought she was asleep, and then they slipped out and filled up the hole. And when they turned around, there was their mother watching them. "What good little puppies," she said. "Come have some strawberry shortcake." And this time, when the poky little puppy got home, he had to squeeze in through a wide place in the fence. And there were his four brothers and sisters, licking the last crumbs from their saucer. "Dear me," said his mother, "what a pity you're so poky. Now the strawberry shortcake is all gone." So Poky Little Puppy had to go to bed without a single bite of shortcake, and he felt very sorry for himself. And the next morning, someone had put up a sign that read, "No desserts ever unless puppies never dig holes under this fence again."
Our next reader is Dr. Emily Deaver. She is a professor of environmental science.
So my book is Elbert's Bad Word by Audrey Wood and illustrated by Audrey and Don Wood. So let's see. Okay. One afternoon at an elegant garden party, young Elbert heard a word he'd never heard before. The word floated by like a small storm cloud. It was ugly and covered with dark, bristly hairs. With a swift flick of his wrist, Elbert snatched the word from the air and stuffed it into his back pocket. Forgetting about it, the boy went on his way, but the word waited patiently. When Aunt Isabella sang opera in soprano, the word made itself small and flew into Elbert's mouth like a little gnat. That's when the trouble began. Chives the butler tried to balance too many trays of deviled eggs. He dropped them all onto Madame Friata's gown. Madame Friata spilled her spritzer on Sir Hilary's bald head. Sir Hilary threw his croquet mallet up into the air. Then, with a terrible thud, the mallet landed on Elbert's great toe. Elbert opened his mouth to scream, but the bad word sprang out, bigger and uglier than before. Everyone at the party was shocked. They couldn't believe their ears. "Come with me, young man," Elbert's mother said with a frown. The word made itself small again, about the size of a rat, and followed in the boy's shadow. In the lavatory, Elbert's mother handed him a bar of soap. "We do not say bad words," she said. "Clean it out of your mouth and never use it again." While Elbert scrubbed his tongue, the bad word sat on his shoulder, snickering wickedly. Oops, too many pages. Elbert knew something had to be done. He ran down a cobbled path, past the reflecting pool, beyond the gazebo, and knocked at the gardener's cottage. The gardener, who was also a practicing wizard, opened the door with a smile. "Come in," he said, "and bring that thing with you." The wizard gardener knew right away that Elbert had caught a bad word and needed a cure. Opening his desk, he pulled out a drawer filled with words that crackled and sparkled. Sometimes we need strong words, he said, to say how we feel. Use these and perhaps you won't get into trouble. Taking the sparkling words from the drawer, the wizard gardener tossed them in a bowl with flour and honey. He added some raisins, milk, and eggs and tossed them all together, then baked a little cake. The cake was delicious, so Elbert ate every last crumb. And as he did, the ugly word shriveled to the size of a flea and hopped onto his necktie. Everyone was enjoying Cousin Rudolph's oboe solo in D minor when Elbert returned to the party. But soon the trouble began anew. Chives the butler tripped on Madame Friata's feathered boa. Madame Friata dropped her chocolate mousse on Sir Hilary's bald head. Sir Hilary threw his croquet mallet up into the air. Then, with a terrible thud, the mallet landed on Elbert's great toe. The music stopped. Everyone stared at the boy. Elbert's frayed face grew red with anger. My stars! Thunder and lightning! Rats and blue blazes! Suffering cats! Blistering hop toads! Sounds and gadzooks! He shouted. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and gave Elbert 3 rousing cheers. But no one was more pleased than Elbert. As the music began again, he saw something that looked like a little spider scurry down a dark hole and disappear.
Our next reader is Nadine Purvis-Schmidt. She's a professor of theater.
When I was about 4 or 5, my mom signed me up for the Weekly Reader Children's Book Club, and every so often I would get a wonderful book in the mail, and I still have a lot of those books, including the one I'm going to read tonight. And I grew up in Florida, and in a little house that was built about 10 years before I was born. And when I was a kid, I used to daydream about living in a different kind of place. And I wanted to live in a big old Victorian house and in a place where the leaves would change color in the fall and where it would snow, maybe not until April, but, but it would snow. And so I'm glad that I do get to live in that kind of place today. But I think that's why this book appealed to me, because it's about kids who use their imagination to live in different kinds of places. We Were Tired of Living in a House by Liesl Moak Scorpin with pictures by Doris Byrne. We were tired of living in a house. So we packed a bag with sweaters and socks and scarves and mittens and woolen caps. And we moved to a tree. We liked our tree. There was always a breeze in the afternoon that rippled through our roof. Above in a branch lived a speckled bird who sang all day for the sake of a song. And our roof in the autumn turned scarlet and gold. We liked our tree until we tumbled out. So we packed our bag with sweaters and socks and scarves and mittens and scarlet leaves and gold. And we moved to a pond. We liked our pond. We built a raft and floated about among the reeds and lily pads. Below, fish darted, dragonflies above, and pond frogs sang with us on summer nights. We liked our pond until we sank. So we packed our bag with sweaters and socks and scarves and scarlet leaves and gold and a frog who was a particular friend. And we moved to a cave. We liked our cave. We slept on beds of cool green moss. We hunted for blackberries in the woods. We dipped our water from the brook and roasted walnuts over a fire. When we weren't busy, we explored. We liked our cave until we met the bears. So we packed our bags with sweaters and socks and scarlet leaves and gold and a frog who was a particular friend and precious stones that caught and held the sun. And we moved to the sea. We liked the sea. We built a castle on the shore from salty water and warm sea sand with turrets and towers and moats about. We hunted for treasure and dove in the waves and slept to the pleasant songs of the surf. We liked our castle on the shore, but the tides kept washing us out to sea. So we packed our bag with sweaters and scarlet leaves and gold and a frog who was a particular friend and precious stones that caught and held the sun and seashells singing like the surf. And we went home to live in a house. The end.
Our next reader is University Librarian Pam Black.
Mem Fox, Harriet, You'll Drive Me Wild. This is not from my childhood. This is one I read to my children. It's illustrated by Marla Frazee. Harriet, You'll Drive Me Wild. Harriet Harris was a pesky child. She didn't mean to be. She just was. One morning at breakfast, she knocked over a glass of juice, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child." "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. At snack time, she dribbled jam all over her jeans, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child. Harriet, you'll drive me wild." "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. Before lunch, when Harriet was painting a picture, she dripped paint onto the carpet, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child. Harriet, you'll drive me wild. Harriet, sweetheart, what are we to do?" "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. At lunch, Harriet slid off her chair and the tablecloth came with her, just like that. Her mother didn't like to yell, so instead she said, "Harriet, my darling child. Harriet, you'll drive me wild. Harriet, sweetheart, what are we to do? Harriet Harris, I'm talking to you." "I'm sorry," said Harriet, and she was. Later that afternoon, when Harriet was meant to be napping, she ripped open a pillow, just like that. 1,000 feathers flew in every direction. There was a terrible silence. Then Harriet's mother began to yell. She yelled and yelled and yelled. "I'm sorry," Harriet cried. "I'm really, really sorry." Her mother took a deep breath. "I know you are," she said, hugging Harriet tight. "I'm sorry too. I shouldn't have yelled, and I wish I hadn't. But sometimes it happens, just like that." "Big mess," said Harriet. "A very big mess," said her mother. And she started to laugh. And they laughed and laughed and went on laughing as they picked up the feathers together.
Our next reader is Mara Wiggins, an acquisitions librarian at the McFarland Library.
I have Joseph Had a Little Overcoat by Sims Tabak. This was a Caldecott Award winner in the year 2000. Caldecott Awards are a children's book award for distinguished illustration. Named after Randolph Caldecott, who was a 19th century children's illustrator. And I say that because, you know, the pictures in some of these look very different. Cassie's book was a Caldecott Award winner. A lot of them have the little medal on the cover. I bought mine before it won the medal, so I don't have the big shiny medal, but Cassie's did. I picked this one. This was one that I read my kids too when they were little girlies, and it reminds us of my mother-in-law, who will be 91 next month. She is a retired home ec teacher, taught home ec for 40 years in the Westbrook area, and it reminds me of her because child of the Depression and a home ec teacher, she could use things and reuse things and repurpose them, and it just reminds the girlies and I of Grandma Janice. So Joseph Had a Little Overcoat by Sims Tabak. Joseph had a little overcoat. He wore the coat for a long time, and then something happened to it. And there's a more to it. Joseph had a little overcoat. It was old and worn. So he made a jacket out of it and went to the fair. Joseph had a little jacket. It got old and worn. So he made a vest out of it. And he danced at his nephew's wedding. Joseph had a little vest. It got old and worn. So he made a scarf out of it, and he sang in the men's chorus. Joseph had a little scarf. It got old and worn. So he made a necktie out of it, and he went to visit his married sister in the city. Joseph had a little necktie. It got old and worn. So he made a handkerchief out of it. And he drank a hot glass of tea with lemon. Joseph had a little handkerchief. It got old and worn. So he made a button out of it, and he used it to fasten his suspenders. Joseph had a little button. One day he lost it. Now he had nothing. My Abby always says, "Look at the gooses, Sarah." He had nothing. So Joseph made a book about it, which shows you can always make something out of nothing.
I'd like to say as we're going through these, obviously you can pictures that were submitted very bravely by Our next reader is Dr. Sammy Shadoum, who is a professor of mathematics.
Okay, you need to switch gear now to Arabic. I have a nice picture there, right? Yeah, so just apologize, we couldn't get visa. My visa denied to bring a picture from overseas. So this will my new look in the future. Blue eyes, whatever. So first of all, whoever, again,
Go ahead, you'll be fine.
okay. So the book in Arabic, we write and read from right to left. So we flip it the other way, especially for kids at the first time. Okay, I switch in Arabic for a minute. But some of you are attending the twice today, right? So I'll quiz you after that. So be careful. Just what's first quiz or first question? Anybody can say Ala ad-Din? Ala, Ayn, Ala ad-Din. So this is what we were almost get today. That's the title, yeah. Can you read? Oh. Can you read, guys?
Sure.
Okay. كان علاء الدين الابن الوحيد لأرملة مسكينة، وفي يوم من الأيام جاء غريب وقال له إنه أخو والده، واصطحبه إلى الغابات، وفي منتصف الغابة وقف بجوار شجرة ضخمة جذعها في حفرة. قال له الغريب إنه بداخل هذه الحفرة كنز كبير. دخل علاء الدين إلى الشجرة فوجد كنوزا من كل الأشكال والأنواع. ملأ علاء الدين جوبه بالكنوز وعاد ومعه المصباح. كنوز وذهب. عندما وصل علاء الدين إلى حافة الحفرة نادى على الرجل ليأتي لمساعدته. أرجوك ساعدني. الرجل قال غاضبا: أعطيني المصباح أولا ثم أتركك تخرج. علاء الدين: لن أعطيك المصباح حتى أخرج من هنا بأمان. فغضب الرجل غضبا شديدا ووضع حجر على فتحة الحفرة تاركا علاء الدين محبوسا في الداخل. صاح علاء الدين في مرارة وفرك الخاتم الذي أعطاه إياه الرجل، وفجأة ظهر له خادم الخاتم الجني. قال له: شبيك لبيك عبدك بين يديك، سيدي ماذا يمكنني أن أفعل لك؟ فأجابه علاء الدين بشجاعة: أريد أن أعود إلى أمي، أخرجني من هذا المكان. في غمضة عين وجد علاء الدين نفسه مع والدته، وبينما كان يزيل التراب من المصباح ظهر له خادم المصباح، فظل هذا الخادم يلبي طلباته حتى أصبح من الأغنياء. بعد سنوات رأى علاء الدين ابنة السلطان ووقع في حبها، فأخذ جواهر ثمينة وأهداها إلى السلطان وأفصح له عن رغبته في الزواج من ابنته. قال له السلطان: بإمكانك أن تتزوج ابنتي بشرط واحد، أن تعد لها قصرا فخما في ليلة واحدة كهدية للعروس. استدعى علاء الدين خادم المصباح، وخادم قال له: شبيك لبيك عبدك بين يديك، ماذا تأمرني الآن؟ أمره أن يبني قصرا من أفضل أنواع الرخام مرصعا بالجواهر له قبة في منتصفه. فقال له خادم المصباح: طلباتك أوامر يا سيدي. وبنى له قصرا. تزوج علاء الدين ابنة السلطان، وعاش الزوجان في سعادة في قصر الفاخر الذي بنى الخادم له. بعد بضعة أيام بينما خرج علاء الدين من المدينة في رحلة للتجارة، تنكر الرجل الشرير على هيئة متسور عجوز ذهب إلى قصر علاء الدين ونادى بأعلى صوته: استدل بالمصابيح القديمة مصباح جديد. لم تكن الأميرة تعرف قيمة المصباح فأعطت المصباح للشرير، فقال الرجل الشرير خادم المصباح أن يأخذ القصر والأميرة إلى بلدته. عندما عاد علاء الدين فوجئ باختفاء أميرته العزيزة والقصر تماما، فخرج على الفور بحثا عن الرجل الشرير فأمسك به وقتله، وبمساعدة الخادم المصباح عاد زوجته وقصره إلى بلدته وعاش في سعادة أبدية. نهاية. أي كلمة اللي حكيتها الدور ولا هلا؟ Anybody remember anything? What? علاء الدين? What else?
Well, there's the Sultan and the princess, and he gets his mom back, and then there's the castle.
From my I said was to remember that from
These are our history. I just remember it.
Our next reader is Marian Zarzana, who's an associate professor of English at Smithson.
Oh.
I know.
That was kindergarten graduation.
Wow.
And my courageous mother started a kindergarten in our house. Like, and we would go to the women in the neighborhood, because this was the baby boom, and I guess there wasn't enough room in the other kindergarten. So they started their own kindergarten in the basement. We got to make churn butter. We just did really cool things. And then we made our own hats and everything. So that was kindergarten graduation. I'm on the front porch. I've got my little diploma. And like Anita, you can see my freckles. And so my book is Goodnight Moon. And I didn't read this as a child, but it was our daughter Elaine's, one of her favorite books. And it was one of my favorite books and Jim's favorite books, because I don't know about other children in this room, but our daughter Elaine was very active, and she never wanted to go to sleep. Bedtime, no. And so this book was our favorite too, because it helped the process. So Goodnight Moon, and there's her little name in there that she wrote. This book belongs to, and you can see that it's all taped up because she liked it a lot, so it got a lot of views. So this is Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown. Pictures by Clement Hurd. In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of, I see some yawns in the audience already. Only on page 1. So if you find yourself falling asleep, it's fine. That's what this book is supposed to do. The cow jumping over the moon. And there were 3 little bears sitting on chairs, and 2 little kittens, and a pair of mittens, and a little toy house, and a young mouse, and a comb, and a brush, and a bowl full of mush, and a quiet old lady who was whispering, "Hush. Good night, room." Good night, moon. Good night, cow jumping over the moon. Good night, light and the red balloon. Good night, bears. Good night, chairs. Good night, kittens, and good night, mittens. Good night, clocks, and good night, socks. Good night, little house, and good night, mouse. Good night, comb, and good night, brush. Good night, nobody. Good night, mush. And good night to the old lady whispering, "Hush." Good night, stars. Good night, air. Good night, noises everywhere. The end.
audience has read a few of these books and knows what it is. Our next reader is Paul Innes, librarian at the Marshall County Library, and our host for this evening.
So that's my big sister, 5 years older than me. I think she's got a book there, so maybe she was reading to me, I don't remember. Obviously, she was trying to get me to talk on the phone. The book that I picked was one that I read to my kids. I was a big horse fan, so I've read all of Black Stallion and C.W. Anderson and all those great horse books. I never read anything else really when I was a kid. This has horses in it, so I thought it was okay because my kids weren't horse fanatics like I was. What I liked about this book was that the parent is a father reading to the child instead of usually the mother. And the father's trying to get the kid to go to bed. And if you look in kind of the background in illustrations, you'll see parental challenges. That's really cool. So this is Close Your Eyes by Jean Marzolo with pictures by Susan Jeffers. Close your eyes and you can be sound asleep in an apple tree. I'm going to put you to sleep one way or the other. Or, if you like, on a ship at sea. Close your eyes and you can play with woolly lambs on a lazy day. Or tabby cats in a pile of hay. Close your eyes and you can lie hidden deep in a field of rye. Or on a cloud in a sunset sky. Close your eyes and gently rest, cuddled on a panda's chest. Or with a friend in a robin's nest. Close your eyes and with a yawn, imagine drowsy geese at dawn. Or lightning bugs on a quiet lawn. But you've not heard a word I've said, for you're asleep in a cozy bed with secret dreams in your lovely head. Good night.
Our final reader this evening is President Connie Gorse from the, oh, this is Dr. Watson, he couldn't make it today, but that's a picture of him when he was President Dr. Connie Gorse, President of SMSU.
Wait,
Oh,
big
yes, right.
Yeah, well,
Right.
maybe not. Shows you my level of self-confidence. So I'm able to disclose that to you. As Anita said before she left Connie, that was not a very good picture of you. What was going on with your hair? I said, I don't know. And it was red. And you can see I had freckles too. Lovely little lace around my neck. But anyway, and that was first grade, so isn't that darling? Anyway, I'm reading The Little Engine That Could by Waddy Piper. And this is actually the complete original edition, so you are going to hear the story as it was meant to be, I think. Wait. Here we go, thank you. Chug, 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 puff, 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 ding dong, ding dong. The little train rumbled over the tracks. She was a happy little train, for she had such a jolly load to carry. Her cars were filled full of good things for boys and girls. There were toy animals, giraffes with long necks, teddy bears with almost no necks at all, and even a baby elephant. Then there were dolls with blue eyes and yellow curls, dolls with brown eyes and brown bobbed heads, and the funniest little toy clown you ever saw. And there were cars full of toy engines, airplanes, tops, jackknives, picture puzzles, books, and every kind of thing boys or girls could want. But that was not all. Some of the cars were filled with all sorts of good things for boys and girls to eat. Big golden oranges, red-cheeked apples, bottles of creamy milk for their breakfast, fresh spinach for their dinners, peppermint drops, and lollipops for after-meal treats. The little train was carrying all these wonderful things to the good little boys and girls on the other side of the mountain. She puffed along merrily. Then all of a sudden, she stopped with a jerk. She simply could not go another inch. She tried and she tried, but her wheels would not turn. What were all those good little boys and girls on the other side of the mountain going to do without the wonderful toys to play with and the good food to eat? "Here comes a shiny new engine," said the funny little clown who jumped out of the train. "Let's ask him to help us." So all the dolls and toys cried out together, "Please, shiny new engine, won't you please pull our train over the mountain? Our engine is broken down, and the boys and the girls on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us." But the shiny new engine snorted, "I pull you? I'm a passenger train. I've just carried a fine big train over the mountain with more cars than you have ever dreamed of. My train had sleeping cars with comfortable berths, a dining car where waiters bring whatever hungry people want to eat, and parlor cars in which people sit in soft armchairs and look out of big plate glass windows. I pull the likes of you? Indeed not." And off he steamed to the roundhouse, where engines live when they're not too busy. How sad the little train and all the dolls and toys felt. Then the little town called out, "The passenger engine is not the only one in the world. Here's another engine coming, a great big strong one. Let us ask him to help us." So the little toy clown waved his flag, and the big strong engine came to a stop. "Please, oh please, big engine," cried all the dolls and toys together. "Won't you please pull our train over the mountain? Our engine is broken down, and the good little boys and girls on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us." But the big strong engine bellowed, "I'm a freight train. I have just pulled a big train." And see, you hear there, he's even a kind of a cross engine. "I have just pulled a big train loaded with big machines over the mountain. Those machines bring books and newspapers for grown-ups to read. I'm a very important engine indeed. I don't pull the likes of you." And the big freight train puffed off indignantly to the roundhouse. Well, the little train and all the dolls and toys were very sad. "Cheer up," cried the little toy clown. "The freight engine's not the only one in the world. Here comes another. He looks very old and tired, but our train is so little, perhaps he can help us." Pardon me. So the little toy clown waved his flag, and the dingy, rusty old engine stopped. "Please, kind engine," cried all the dolls and toys together, "won't you please pull our train over the mountain? Our engine is broken down, and all the boys and girls on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us." But the rusty old engine sighed, "Oh, I am so tired. I must rest my weary wheels. I cannot even pull so little a train as yours over the mountain. I cannot. And off he rumbled to the White House, chugging, I cannot. Then indeed the little train was very, very sad, and all the dolls and toys were ready to cry. But the little town called out, "Here's another engine coming, a little blue engine, a very little one. Maybe she will help us." The very little engine came chugging merrily along. When she saw the toy clown's flag, she stopped quickly. "Well, what's the matter, my friends?" she asked kindly. "Oh, little blue engine," cried the dolls and toys, "will you please pull us over the mountain?
Our engine is broken down, and the good girls and boys on the other side won't have any toys to play with or good food to eat unless you help us. Please, please help us, Little Blue Engine. Well, I'm not very big, said the Little Blue Engine. They use me only for switching trains in the yard. I've never been over the mountain. But we must get over the mountain before the children awake, said all the dolls and the toys. The very little engine looked up and saw the tears in the doll's eyes. And she thought of the good little boys and girls on the other side of the mountain who would not have any toys or good food unless she helped. Then she said, well, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can. And she hitched herself to the little train. She tugged and pulled and pulled and tugged, and slowly, slowly they started off. The toy clown jumped aboard, and all the dolls and the toy animals began to smile and cheer. Puff, puff, chug, chug, went the little blue engine. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Anybody else want to join in? I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Yeah. Up, 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 faster and faster and faster and faster the little engine climbed, until at last they reached the top of the mountain, and down in the valley lay the city. Hooray, hooray, cried the funny little clown, and all the dolls and toys. The good little boys and girls in the city will be happy because you helped us, kind little blue engine. And the little blue engine smiled and seemed to say as she puffed steadily down the mountain, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could. The end.
Thank you, all you readers and everyone in attendance tonight. If we could get a group picture of everybody who read before everybody scatters, those of you who are left, the few and mighty that have stayed on.